Chris did talk about the late drop yesterday that came out from Chrome with this particular vulnerability, 11.756. It was flagged as possible remote code execution, as Chris talked about, so we won't spend too much time on this one. We did see updates yesterday from Mozilla almost across the board for their products, starting with Firefox 144, the latest version of their browser that came out, addressed 14 vulnerabilities. One thing that was interesting in this is that I flagged these with red and an asterisk here. Chris and I talked about this yesterday, is the way they were reported. Mozilla said that the way there was some of the information they collected about this, that they suspected that these may already be exploited in the wild. They didn't have direct confirmation, but they were seeing information with these particular vulnerabilities that they might have been exploited. So be aware of that. Anyway, definitely it was rated high from Mozilla yesterday on the latest Firefox browser. On the ESR side, this is their oldest one that they're still carrying. It's the 115.29. One of these vulnerabilities also applied to that. It was the CVE 2025 11.7.14. So you want to make sure that you do update this older ESR version if you are carrying that forward as your long-term version. And the other one was around security updates for Firefox 140.4, and two of these vulnerabilities applied there. So definitely want to make sure that you update that. 8 vulnerabilities were fixed overall with that release. Of course, the similarities between their product, talking about the Thunderbird mail product, 11 vulnerabilities were fixed in 144, the latest version of this, which included those 3 possibly exploited vulnerabilities I have listed there. And finally, we also saw an update for their ESR version 140.4 as well, and the 2 vulnerabilities I talked about earlier. So we want to make sure that across the Mozilla product family, if you're using those, that you do roll these out with your regularly scheduled Patch Tuesday updates. We did see quite a few updates from Adobe as well. I've included the 3 here that we support in Creative Cloud with updates from our products. First one was their Security Advisory 25.96 for Adobe Bridge. They addressed 2 vulnerabilities here that had to deal with arbitrary code execution and memory exposure, where they refer to them. These are the latest 2 versions of Bridge that are out there. You want to make sure you get those covered. There was an update for Adobe Animate as well with their Bulletin 25-97. 4 vulnerabilities that were exposed here, 2 rated critical and 2 that were rated important. And finally, there was also an update for Adobe Illustrator. Again, another common product that comes with Creative Cloud. 2 vulnerabilities here. Both of these were rated critical. That could lead to arbitrary code execution, so you want to make sure you get those covered. Should say that across the Adobe set of products, there was nothing that was listed as known exploited. So again, vulnerabilities, critical ones, but nothing that was reported as known exploited. Moving on to the regular updates from Microsoft we saw for the month. As Chris said, Windows 11, we saw a massive number of vulnerabilities addressed, 134 this month. I did highlight the ones in red that Chris covered, 2 being publicly disclosed and the 3 being known exploited. You can look into those in more detail in the security update guide. We did see the regular updates this month for all the versions that came out, including 25H2. So if you are running 25H2 already, the latest version that came out from Microsoft, there were security updates, so you want to apply those right away. Also keep in mind, in our product set, we do share the enablement patch. So it is possible to update this version from 24H2 to 25H2 with the enablement patch. You don't have to have the ISO file. As long as you have 24H2 running, you can run the enablement patch and it will automatically update you to 25H2. And what it does there is that it just exposes the features that are hidden behind the 24H2 version. And it'll also then show you the latest version, 25H2, as installed properly. So just be aware of that one. Windows 10, as Chris mentioned, we saw 116 vulnerabilities there. Keep in mind, this is the last non-ESU version of the update. If you are going to be using ESU, you want to make sure that you are running 22H2 as the latest version, because that's what the ESU updates will apply to. Again, those same publicly disclosed vulnerabilities as well as the known exploited ones that Chris talked about earlier. No reported issues here. Oh, I should mention, let me go back here. I didn't talk about known issues. Under Windows 11, there was an issue reported with the latest version, 24H2, 25H2, and Server 2025, which had to do with digital rights management and the playing of digital audio. You might run into a problem there. They did mention in the KB article, this problem has sort of existed since the August release. They addressed some of it with the September release, and a little more now with the October release. It said they're still taking a look at it and looking at a long-term solution, but it sounds to me like they've kind of done as much as they can at this point. But you might run into still some issues with digital audio playing on these operating systems, where you might get some stops, some black screens, etc. So be aware of that. Again, it has to do with the digital rights management and the way it's being implemented and managed in the operating system. Nothing was reported, I should say, for Windows 10 as far as known issues, which is good since it is the last version that they're releasing for us here. We did see security updates, the last ones for Microsoft Office here. This is all the 2016 versions that are coming to end of life. They did address 13 vulnerabilities, some which dealt with remote code execution, some with information disclosure. There were no known issues that were reported against this latest and final version of Microsoft Office. On the 365 side, this includes multiple versions. These are all the click-to-run versions. Office 2019, which we heard is also coming to an end. Office Long-Term Servers Channel 2021 and 2024 that I talked about earlier. 16 vulnerabilities reported here. No known issues reported against these. They had a number of impacts here. Remote code execution, some denial of service. There was actually one vulnerability. And of course, some information disclosure, which we see against most of these vulnerabilities. Chris talked about updates for Exchange Server. The Exchange Server updates were only rated as important this month. They addressed 3 vulnerabilities this month. I have them listed here. None of these were known, exploited, or publicly disclosed. It does cover all versions of Exchange Server that are under current support. This includes 2016 CU23, the 2 versions of Server 2019, CU14 and CU15, and the Exchange Server Subscription Edition, which is the latest version that they have out there. We did see, as usual, updates for SharePoint Server. This month, there were 6 vulnerabilities that were addressed. I have them listed here. None of these were known, exploited, or publicly disclosed. And as Chris covered earlier, those were only in the operating system updates this month. But again, rated important. You want to make sure that you do get this deployed as soon as possible as well. It's been a long time since we saw .NET updates, .NET Framework updates, I should say. We do continue to see .NET 8 and .NET 9 updates in the development side. But as far as what you deploy out to the actual endpoints, we did see this month both the monthly roll-up update of .NET, which includes like basically everything going way back in time, as well as the security-only updates this month for .NET Framework as well. Interestingly enough, it goes all the way back to 2.0 version. A lot of times you'll see just 3.5 through 4.8.1, but this month this one does go all the way back to 2.0. Only one vulnerability. It was an information disclosure vulnerability. It was related to the encryption, which was kind of interesting in .NET Framework and the way it could be exploited. It is not known to be exploited, but that's what this particular vulnerability had to do with. Like I said, we haven't seen a .NET Framework for a while, update for a while, so it was interesting that this one came out now.